Okay, so it's been a fair while since I felt like making a video talking much about Marvel and the MCU, because for me, the MCU just hasn't felt the same in years. The prime era leading into Infinity War and Endgame, it's well and truly gone, and whilst I enjoyed the second and third Spider-Man movies, there was just less enthusiasm. The magic was over, and I don't think it helped that the MCU became well and truly oversaturated with content. TV show after TV show, film after film, and it felt like you had to watch it all to keep up. And eventually I just fell off the wagon with it all. And I think that's the case for a whole lot of people if some of the more recent critical receptions and most importantly, box office numbers have anything to say about it. I think there was a definite sense of superhero fatigue, and so when Deadpool was announced to be coming back, for me it was more of a meh moment at first. I mean, yeah, I enjoyed the first two, but at the same time, I was still so switched off from superhero films that it was hard to care all that much. Until it was announced to be Deadpool and Wolverine, and that Wolverine would be the classic Hugh Jackman style Wolverine, and suddenly my nostalgia came roaring into focus and I needed this film urgently. My god, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine? After he retired with Logan? Yes please! Especially in a film like Deadpool where plot holes and ridiculousness just don't matter, and don't impact the enjoyment of the narrative overall, and thus you can bring him back with little fuss. And I think pretty much everybody was primed for this to be one of the best superhero films in years. The critics, audiences, Marvel itself. Hell, after Ant-Man and the Wasp and the Marvels last year, I'm sure Marvel's just hoping they make some damn money. And as of writing this, it is certainly doing well for itself. It has massive projections for its opening weekend. It's already made over $100 million with an estimated $300 million opening weekend on the horizon. Not too shabby. Is Marvel back? Is the MCU back? I don't know. After all, Deadpool is such a unique flavour of superhero film that's hard to replicate. It's so different to anything else they make, that even if this is a tremendous success, doesn't necessarily mean that other films in the MCU are going to follow suit and be just as good or successful. But yeah, I think they've done a really great job here, and in all honesty, I think this is one of the best films in the MCU in general. Recency bias be damned. And at the very least is probably one of, if not the best, since we hit that post-Endgame phase of the MCU, and I'll stand by that. Because this is the most fun I've had watching a superhero movie in actual years. And I think the world at large agrees. Critics, they're a little bit more reserved on it, 79% on Rotten Tomatoes so far. It's a decent score, but having read some of the reviews I did think, I don't know, I'm not sure what some of these reviewers were actually expecting from the movie. But the audience score, far more in line with my personal opinion on things, score of 97% as of writing this, which very well deserved. The film well and truly fires on all cylinders. Spoilers ahead, by the way. Okay, for starters, we've got to talk about the story. Perfection, just perfection. The story follows the character of Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool, who after his application to join the Avengers is rejected, spirals quite hard and becomes a used car salesman. He gets dumped by his girlfriend, and starts wearing a toupee. And that last part's not relevant to the story, but I just wanted to mention it. And on his birthday, out of the blue, he's abducted by agents from the TVA, and informed that since the death of Wolverine in the movie Logan, his universe is starting to die, as Logan had been its anchor being. But Wade had been extracted from his timeline by Mr. Paradox, an up-and-coming TVA agent who wants to prove himself as the natural successor to the leadership of the TVA. And he wants to scrap the timeline using a time ripper, and so Deadpool decides, nah, none of that. I'm going to save my timeline because I love my friends. And so he decides to try to prove that Wolverine is still alive and finds his rotten corpse. Whoops. But it's okay because he goes on a killing spree when the TVA come to arrest him, and this allows him to steal their tech and try to find the perfect replacement Logan, zooming through hordes of different variant Logans, all of whom are pure fan service, my personal favourite being the unexpected Henry Cavill Logan. I really didn't see that coming. But since this man straight up gets fan cast as every single character under the sun, I mean, wherever nerds thrive, there will be a Henry Cavill fan casting, it did make a lot of sense to include it, and so Deadpool finds one that he thinks works, only to discover that this is apparently the worst Logan of any timeline, or maybe the most pathetic Logan, the most useless Logan, the Logan that failed. And this gets them both sent to the Void, where they meet Captain America, or rather, who they think is Captain America, only for the best reveal ever when he shouts, "Flame on." But yeah, they're kidnapped by a bunch of old school X-Men, complete with an intentionally anticlimactic Sabretooth versus Wolverine fight, and they're brought before the villain of the tale, or at least one of the villains of the tale, Cassandra Nova. She's the psychotic and evil twin sister of Charles Xavier, and after she kills Johnny Storm and tries to kill them, the two go off on a buddy adventure to try to escape the Void and save the world. They have an epic fight scene against one another, before collapsing from mutual exhaustion and being recovered by a bunch of other deleted variant heroes. We have Elektra, Blade, Laura from Logan, and Gambit from an unmade film that would have starred Channing Tatum. They all team up to fight Cassandra, and they steal Juggernaut's helmet to neutralize her powers, and at the same time she's also betrayed by one of her goons, the Fire Dude from X-Men, who was told to kill her by Paradox, and so everybody converges on Earth, where they all fight for the Time Ripper. Paradox tells Deadpool and Wolverine how to destroy it, whilst Cassandra tries to use it to shred existence, and obviously they win, she dies, and their actions restore the timeline. Don't think too hard about it. And on top of that, their allies are saved from the void, and it's all a happy ending. And yeah, that's the bare bones plot, and what on the face of it seems like a pretty stock standard superhero multiverse fare. But at the same time, it feels like a massive parody of it all. Because ultimately, at times the story was intentionally batshit insane, with out-of-nowhere plot twists and weird logic. But it works because, well, they are making fun of themselves and the MCU in general. But also, beneath it all, it's a character-driven film, not necessarily a plot-driven one. One that, despite being insane and wild, is very heartfelt, about redemption and second chances, with lots of wholesome moments where the narrative slows itself down, and you have time to really take everything in. I don't know, I just found the story itself, even when you strip away all the pop culture references, jokes, and fan service, fun. That's what it is, it's fun. The actual dynamic between Deadpool and Wolverine is top tier. Their slow burn development of their friendship was really well written, it had ups and downs, and felt earned by the end of the movie. But yeah, the story was heartfelt and ridiculously funny and crammed full of meta humor and fan service, and I felt like it worked so well. I've seen a few reviews that talk about how they think the film went way too hard on this sort of thing, but I think it was the perfect time to integrate it. Meta jokes, ridiculousness, it was exactly what the film and the MCU needed, because it was bringing something fresh to the table in terms of the superhero genre. As a whole, the MCU to me has felt formulaic and somewhat bland and stale for quite some time, so to be able to have a film that comes in, acknowledges what's been shit about the MCU and makes fun of it, chucks in a whole lot of fan favorite characters in unexpected ways, blasts you with fan service and things you wish you could have seen, characters interaction you never would have expected, ending plot threads in ways that are anticlimactic and yet funny, like Deadpool and Wolverine versus the Deadpool army, which ends when Peter turns up and all the Deadpools love him so much that they stop fighting and they mob him trying to get his attention. It's just an exercise in silliness, and an exercise in fun, in not taking yourself too seriously, and that's why it works so well, because it feels so different. It feels so fresh, and compared to even the funniest of the MCU films, the jokes are just out there in ways that are unique to Deadpool. I guess it probably helps to have an R rating in mind when you make the movie, and on top of that, the fourth wall breaks were handled really well. I much preferred this to when She-Hulk did it. Didn't like that one, to be honest. But what else? Music, yeah. Can't really remember much about the overall score, but I do recall that the film absolutely integrated existing songs that reminded me of Shrek and Shrek 2, where the song montages or song battles just took things to the next level. And it had the same effect in this film. My particular favourite of these comes right at the start of the film, with Deadpool killing TVA agents whilst also dancing to Bye Bye Bye. And on top of that, they also cleverly integrated the credits into that, which, you know, it was just very smart filmmaking. The whole film's like that, really. Despite it seemingly chasing down the lowest common denominator at all times in terms of its humor, it's actually very cleverly made. It interweaves its jokes, drama, plot development, meta references, everything into a cohesive whole that just works so well, either from a standalone only Deadpool perspective, but also as a wider part and commentary of the MCU as a whole. And on top of that, it also puts to rest the old Fox-verse, which was rather emotional for me, really. I loved those as a kid, especially X-Men and X2. Classics. Absolute classics. And then also just the action. The action was top tier. You know, just the fighting, just everything's so good. And I loved how they integrated the Wolverine crawl run, which is really well choreographed. The right amount of goofiness, gore, brutality, and cheesiness. It was like one part superhero film, one part martial arts movie, one part slasher, and I loved it. Really gripping and engaging, visceral, exciting, and diverse, I think. Diverse in its action, it feels different in every battle. From the Bye 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 battle to Wolverine versus Deadpool, Team Deadpool versus Cassandra's goons, to the duo versus the Deadpool army, it all feels different and fresh. It never felt samey, and thus it never got boring. And really that's the story of the film. It never got boring. It was always engaging and fun, and exciting, and it had a happy ending, which is nice to see. Not everything needs to be bittersweet. Just so damn good. Go and see this movie, it's worth it. It's worth every dollar. Hell yeah. I think this might be the end of Wolverine, at least the Jackman version, but damn, what a swan song. Two perfect endings, Logan and then this. Like, I'd love to see him back, but the movie was so good. I'd understand if he's done. But yeah, the movie's a banger. Watch it, hell yes, more of this please. And so, with all that being said, these have just been my opinions, and I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the movie if you've seen it? Did you like it, hate it? Are you interested in giving it a shot? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.